So following Richie Mo'unga's moment, should we say, from this weekend's game, got us thinking, what are the cheekiest plays you've ever seen on a rugby pitch? Anything from little quick taps to anything Courtney Beale's ever done. Loads of them come to my mind, and I'd be very excited to see some of yours for next week, and we'll read some out there and then, and I'll probably end up spending hours watching them all back. So speaking of Super Rugby and of Richie Mo'unga, it was very much him who inspired a brilliant comeback from the Crusaders this weekend. Now they were falling behind, it looked like they were going to be dead and buried up until this brilliant charge down by Braden Ennell.
And there is a critical moment in this game.
Yeah, that's a couple of big calls. Oh, the kick's charged! That's Braden Ennell. Who knows how important that could be?
Followed by Richie Mo'unga pulling perhaps the moment of the weekend and doing this, a break into 22 coming from a really cheeky little restart. It was brilliant to watch. It was the Crusaders just doing what they do and just combining moments of individual brilliance with just being a brilliant team collective, scoring some great tries and coming out on top in one of the best games of the tournament so far. Meanwhile, in the other game this weekend, we saw something that was cheeky in a different way as Jordie Barrett took a ball to the face a few inches out from the try line. Frankly, it serves him right because that ball that he launched, he booted last week from that penalty from his own half, ended up flying so far that it hit our old man in Portugal. He wasn't injured particularly badly, but it did sting a little bit. Meanwhile, in Australia, we saw Golden Point for the first time as James O'Connor made a lovely break to create a try that led to the match finishing as a draw at full time, only for Golden Point to also finish as a draw, meaning we just got an extra 10 minutes of rugby, which frankly after the last few months I'm entirely fine with. I don't actually need that Golden Point at all for it to feel entirely golden. In the other game, a golden boy in Michael Hooper very much shone through for the Tars as they managed to fight off a really spirited, really fun
Western Force
team, playing their first game of proper top-end Super Rugby in 3 years. It was a fun game, and Michael Hooper was everywhere. I almost swore there. I might just stop myself at the last second. That's what Michael Hooper does. He inspires professionalism by being really good at rugby. Meanwhile, off the pitch, Steve Diamond said earlier this week that there is absolutely no way on earth that Sale Sharks are signing Manu Tuilagi, which of course means that Sale Sharks have now signed Manu Tuilagi. That Leicester saga continues to roll on. Meanwhile, in other transfer news, we've seen 7 former Springboks and current Springboks head back to South Africa from overseas sides, including, of course, Dwayne Vermeulen, man of the match in the last World Cup final, as well as a few really exciting players, including Travis Ismail and Gio Aplon, who I'm so excited to see play Super Rugby once again. The other piece of transfer news came similarly en masse as Exeter Chiefs re-signed basically seemingly their entire squad. However, this most notably included Wales prop Tom Francis, who it looks like may not be eligible to play for Wales anymore, leading to much drama in the old land of my fathers, as we wonder who is our best tight head now and what is going to happen in that scrum. However, the one thing they won't be wondering is when they're going to play again, because the Premiership have confirmed a date on which they'll be back. They've published a full schedule of games starting really quite soon. Very much soon. And finally, Major League Rugby confirmed that yet another team have bid to join for the next campaign. This team to be based in Hawaii, making it overtake Toulon as the nicest away trip possible. So there's quite a lot of interest building in MLR for next season. It got me thinking, let's have a look at those teams. Let's have a look at what's going on in Major League Rugby. With squads rebuilding and teams popping up across the United States, it's time to examine the teams that currently make up the most major of leagues in rugby. It's MLR, Major League Rugby, starting with the teams in the Western Conference. 2018 finalists, the Colorado Raptors, withdrew from the competition in March, but this conference still boasts 2-time champions, the Seattle Seawolves, home of Argentina legend Juan Manuel Leguizamon, now headed into his 16th season of professional rugby,
returning Eagles ace Andrew Zotalo, a fantastic back rower who unfortunately missed last year's World Cup, and a strong Canadian contingent, including prop Justice Duru, fly half Peter Nelson, who infamously turned Jordie Barrett inside out at last year's World Cup, and former Ospreys favourite rock and roll winger Jeff Hassler. The Houston Sabercats favour a more South American link in their team, with Uruguay's most cut player Diego Magno, plus fellow Diego, Puma's hooker Fortundi, and an all-Argentine centre pairing, whilst elsewhere in the backs they have Fiji 7-star Osea Kalinisau and fullback Zach Pangelian, one of the rare modern players to have won international caps in both rugby and soccer. The Utah Warriors have a similarly exciting back three, made up of Whippy and the Nippy, Tonga's Fetu Vanikolo, at one point possibly the quickest man in Test rugby, another Fiji gold medalist in Vitembe Wavuvu, and the ice cream cool US international Josh Whippy. The Austin Gregonis may have changed their name, but they still have a pretty elite squad, the likes of Adam Ashley Cooper, Frank Halley and Rodrigo Silva, helping them turn around their fortunes as they bounce back from losing every game in 2019 to a win and a draw in their first 3 games before the 2020 season was shut down. However, last but certainly not least, we have the San Diego Legion, a squad more stacked than the Comic-Con their town hosts every year. Their big signing last season was the still class all-time great Marnonu, but headed over this year are the ever underrated Jason Tubby and, of course, former England captain and debatable 6.5 Chris Robshaw, where he will complete a back row with breakthrough eagle Sam Wuching, who for me was the best player in MLR's truncated 2020 season. So join us next week when we'll dive into the teams over on the East.
So last week we asked you, inspired by Rugby World Magazine's published list of the 50 most influential people in rugby, to take a look and consider who you think are the most influential people in rugby in 2020. Now I very cheekily managed to squeeze my way onto the list, and Guppers, the first comment, says that I deserve a spot on the list. You're very kind, Mr. Guppers. Flattery will get you nowhere except for on this very show.
I love it when you talk dirty.
Friedrich says Fafta Clerk so influential the Japanese literally named a hair care brand after him. Philip Glover, who also mentions he's very happy to hear his comment read out. I hope you're very happy again, Philip Glover. He mentions Nigel Owens, who is just a standing item on that list.
This is not soccer.
Every year. Always incredible is our Nige. Jacob says Eddie Jones, who doesn't get enough credit for managing to whip the Japanese team in ship, which I very much agree with. Without him managing the things he managed in the lead up to 2015, they don't make a quarter-final in 2019. They don't really light up the rugby world in the way they did. As he says, it really allowed rugby to take a foothold in Japan in a way it wouldn't have otherwise. And on a similar note, Haj goes for Jamie Joseph, the Japan coach, who has done a brilliant job of developing so many talents into really top flight players. JTS Brown says another answer very close to my heart, my good friend Juan Manuel Gaminara, who inspired Uruguay to their famous victory in last year's tournament. And then of course we have a reply from Ashika Glad, a man with a username, who says he thought it was the boy my neighbour's probably sleeping right now. And there are loads more answers, as well as obviously, 40 something more beyond myself in this very magazine, though of course the one in number 50 there is the one who understands the game is very, very funny, according to Mr. Johan Erasmus. Anyway, if you want to see any more of this, there'll be more next week on the World Rugby YouTube channel. Please subscribe at a link right below, and we'll see you next week for more of the feed.